you doing, everybody? This is the Best of the Week, guys. We are here with Lance from Dogman Pedals. He's a musician, an author, and you make awesome fuzz and drive pedals and some other devices.
Thank you.
Yeah, so jumping right into it, man. One, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Two, how did Dogman Devices get started?
Well, thanks for having me, and it's a bit of a long story, but like I initially got started playing the electric guitar because I was really interested in the stuff I was hearing people do with pedals. That before then, I was interested in just playing a lot of different acoustic instruments to kind of be able to make different textures and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got into post-rock and discovered that I can make all sorts of different textures with just pedals and one instrument. And I got like a multi-effects pedal and was really pretty set with the gear I had for like a really long time after that. And if you flash forward to after I finished college and stuff, I went to Japan to teach English. And I didn't bring any of my guitar stuff over there. I wanted to just get a new guitar there, and I wanted to, instead of have like the one multi-effects thing, I wanted to just get a bunch of individual pedals, because I was starting to get to the point where I was wanting to see some new stuff.
Yeah.
And not exactly through that, but after I like started going to the local punk shows and stuff there and started meeting more of the people, there's a band there called Mortal Family. I was in Morioka, and way up north in Japan, kind of in the middle of nowhere. But I started hanging out with the guys in this band called Morioka and Rappa, and they invited me to perform at this event called Noise Jamboree. That was it's like an all-day noise event that had a bunch of musicians from all over the kind of northern area of Japan. And one of the people in Mortal Family, their other side project is a noise thing with modular synthesizers and stuff. And I wasn't playing super noisy music or anything at the time, but it was still an interesting thing. But when I was there, I saw people who had just these crazy devices that I couldn't comprehend what they were doing, and I was asking them about it, and they're like, oh yeah, I just made this stuff, and I was blown away by that, and I was asking them if they were engineers or something, and they're like, no, you can just learn how to do that on the internet. And that blew my mind after that, because I'd been interested in building all kinds of stuff before then that made computers and things like that. For some reason, I thought that pedals were the kind of thing that you needed, a whole manufacturing department to be able to deal with. So it wasn't an idea that I had considered as a thing. That
then you see a lot of people are doing them on their kitchen tables. It's awesome.
Yeah. It was after that is when I started to kind of look into the stories behind different brands a little bit more, and found that I don't know, before when I was interested in pedals and everything, most of the other people I was talking to about that didn't play guitar or anything, so it wasn't I wasn't quite seeing other people's gear and hearing their stories and stuff about it until around then, and I got into doing it as a hobby. Just there's websites where you can get kits to build clones of circuits and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's also, you can find things on Stripboard that are when you get a kit, it's on a printed circuit board and it has instructions. There's other stuff where you can just kind of make kind of just a DIY circuit board. And I got really into doing that for a while, because buying kits just feels kind of like playing with Legos, which is fun, but on the strip board, it was I can kind of make bigger modifications rather than just changing a couple of cap values or something. And then after a while, I just wanted to start making my just own stuff that maybe I would start with the existing circuit, but I wanted the end product to not really resemble that. It was just that there's only so many ways to hook up a transistor to have it be useful in a guitar pedal, and so like I wanted to start from that foundation and start playing around with stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had moved back to America at this point and had a regular job doing like tech support, and some of the people I was working with were starting to get interested in some of the things I was building, so I figured like I can make stuff for other people too. And after a while I decided I may as well go through the process of like formally having it be a business so that I can like treat it more like a business.
Yeah.
Before I was making pedals basically just for me, maybe one for a friend or two.
Sure.
And then when people were wanting to start to buy stuff, I always get kind of paranoid that if something good is happening, there's going to be some counteracting terrible thing. So it's like, oh, if people are going to buy stuff from me, I better make sure that it's like legally set up as a business and everything. And then I still wasn't doing it full time. I was doing it while I was working other jobs. And then after I finished my first pedal, the Fire Fuzz, I just wanted to start taking it more seriously. That like my actual job was so much less important to me than my making pedals and stuff.
Yeah.
So I decided that I wanted to move back with my family and finish the overdrive design I was working on. And then I was going to get like a part-time job to kind of still keep doing stuff, but I was going to be more focused on the pedals. And right around the time when I finished that design for the overdrive is when I got a lot more attention kind of overnight that Jason Isbell tweeted about me. And all of a sudden it seemed like rather than it being something that I care about and still support with like a part-time job, it started to seem like something I could feasibly just do all the time. And that's been how it's been since then. And it's been like a week ago that I feel like I finally accepted that really did happen and that people really are wanting to buy my pedals.
Yeah.
I don't know, it seems almost like people just want me to do whatever I want, and that seems like that can't be right. But I don't know,
Man, it seems like a dream, man.
I'm that way so far.
Great position to be in, bro.
Yeah, I feel very, very lucky because right around when things started to seem like I could feasibly do it full time is also when the pandemic was getting started, and I didn't have a regular full-time job, so it was like kind of needed this to be a full-time job anyway. It just didn't seem like it was at all feasible, and that changed and has been, it still seems a little too good to be true.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'd like to kind of ask about your enclosures. Your enclosures are different than what people are accustomed to seeing. Can you kind of talk about how that came about and how you come up with the designs on those and actually etch it and all that?
Yeah, so at first like the first run of the Fire Fuzz pedals I had, those were powder coated and UV printed like how a lot of pedals are. I still wanted those to look kind of handmade, so instead of picking a font, I just have like a little graphics tablet and I just hand wrote everything on there. Because I just like that handwritten aesthetic a lot. But after the first run of those pedals I did, I personally don't know how to powder coat and I don't have a UV printer. I was outsourcing that part, and the company that I had been working with, they let some people go and some nasty rumors started kind of spreading about them, and I just kind of wanted to move away from working with them. And at the scale that I was working at then, there were like 2 places to pick from if you were making less than 100 pedals at a time. And I don't know, the whole thing left a kind of bad taste in my mouth, that I always think that people who were involved in an industry that is like cool, it's probably has nice, cool people working in it, but it's not always the case, and I just got me thinking, like, I don't want to go into, like, an ethical deep dive with every vendor that I'm looking at, and especially if I'm going to be spending kind of a lot of money on things like powder coating and things like that, and I just wanted to think of more ways I could just keep everything in-house.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was living in an apartment in Minneapolis, and so, like, you can't really spray paint year-round in Minneapolis when you're doing it outside. I'd say, like, half of the year in Minneapolis is just not okay to be outside.
Yeah.
It's way too cold, and so the more I thought about it, I took a lot of metalworking classes when I was in college, and I do just like the way that metal works, and I'm familiar with a lot of the different techniques you can do on it. When I was in school, I was mostly doing stuff with like copper and brass and silver. Aluminum is a lot different, but I still, I had some of those tools, and yeah, there was about like a 6-month period where I was kind of going back to making lots of clone circuits, but it was mostly just so I could practice different ideas on the enclosures, like different ways of polishing them and different ways to engrave things. Right now, I still mostly engrave things with a rotary tool, so it's like done by hand. Now that I'm not in an apartment, it is a little bit more feasible to etch stuff with acid, but the area that I have set up for that is also basically outside, so it's kind of too cold right now, but yeah, I really enjoyed all the metalworking classes I had in college, and I always kind of felt like if I would have been able to get into those earlier in my career in college, I probably would have changed my major. And so the idea of like finding some way to start working on metal again and work with pedals, it just seemed like such a good idea. And I don't know, it's definitely labor intensive, but over the last year I've gotten things set up a lot better. Before, the way that my tool was set up, it was almost like I was kind of fighting against it, and now I have like a hook in the ceiling, and so like where the tension of it tries to pull is like in line with my arm, so it's gotten a lot easier. And so that's what, with like my Ouroboros thing, I've been putting kind of scroll work on that, and that's the kind of thing that I've recently been able to do more by hand, and I've been excited about that. But I don't know, I'm also interested in just kind of doing different stuff too. So like earlier this year I released a new fuzz pedal bolt, and that one is in a powder coated enclosure, but then I still engrave on it, and that was partly because I don't want to always just use plain metal. Like, it is interesting, and I do have a way better polishing setup now than I used to. Before I was hand sanding everything, and I have like a buffing wheel now, and so like I can kind of get things up to like a mirror finish now if I wanted to. And while that is cool, it's like I also just like having colors and things, and I don't want to necessarily keep making the same thing all the time. So
yeah, that's a trend we hear with most people. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
like
Oh, I was gonna say you mentioned the bolt, the newer fuzz pedal that came out. So how'd you come up with that design, and how do you approach your designs at this point?
Yeah, so one thing with Bolt that's been kind of different is, just to back up a little bit, when I was first starting the company, the idea that I had was, I wanted to think of like kind of 4 just fundamental pedals that I would like to have, and then going along that theme, I kind of came up with like I could use the classical elements for those, and kind of then just digging more into that elemental idea, I wanted to have all of those ideas be kind of like a foundation that I can build on in the future with other things. So like fire and earth, thematically, that those should be fuzz and overdrive just seemed apparent to me. Water and air are more like time modulation things that I'm starting to get to a point with air where it's gonna come out this year. but yeah, to go back to Bolt, I feel like I had, through the process of making that fire fuzz, I went through probably like 10 different fuzz designs and just started to, I feel like I just kind of get that topology really well. And so with Bolt, I actually wasn't intending to really even make that I kind of just wanted a new fuzz pedal for me, and I've been seeing all of these one knob fuzzes around on like Instagram and stuff, and it just, ever since I started building pedals, I'm a lot more interested in building them rather than buying them, unless they're doing something that I feel like is beyond what I'm capable of doing, which is still plenty of stuff, but the one knob fuzz, it seemed like the kind of thing I could just sort of make for myself. And I kind of wish I had a better explanation for it, but I just kind of had an idea. I drew it out, the schematic, and then I put it on a strip board just because it wasn't too complicated of a circuit, and it just sounded so much better than I expected that, like, I thought maybe instead of this just being like a fun little day project for me, other people might actually want this thing. And
one knob fuzzes are great.
The more I kind of test around with, like I don't know, I like it partly because it's not a part of that elemental theme, and so with the fire, I had a really specific notion of like this should be like a really intense fuzz, and I don't know, I like some intense fuzz, but Bolt is just a bit more chilled out, and I like that it's still definitely fuzz, but it's not like, it's not quite as in your face, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome. So, what's next for Dogman Devices? What can people look out for moving forward?
Yeah, so, right now, I am planning on getting the air and water pedals out this year. That with air, I haven't really shown much about it. Here's a prototype that I have. You can kind of see. This is the main thing I'm struggling with this is that I have a kind of hard time describing what it does, because it is essentially delay, but it's also fuzz, and the fuzz part of it is within the delay. There's a switch that turns the fuzz on and off, but the way that the fuzz aspect of it interacts with like the repeats part of the delay makes it just this other weird thing. Like, I can't really find a good other example of something like that. And on the one hand, it's really exciting and fun for me, but it also makes me a little bit nervous, because it's like, I don't know how to describe this thing, but then it's like, I have like a criminal amount of fun with it. I feel like I would be further along with a lot of my other projects if I wasn't just playing with that seeing how this sounds on one of my guitars doesn't need to take like 2 hours. It should take a couple of minutes, but it's like I turn it on and then I just forget that, I should be working right now and just keep playing with this pedal. So in one regard, I feel good about it. I don't quite know what category to put that in, though. And then with water, my development process with water has been a lot different, because my general idea of what that effect should be is just a lot more diffuse. That I thought about like tremolo and chorus and things like that, and the circuitry and those things, to do them as an analog pedal, but to have like it has chorus and tremolo, it would be like a really complicated big pedal. And I was thinking, if I'm going to be getting into more complicated stuff, I've been interested in digital effects that specifically, I don't want to get too technical, but there's a chip called the FE1 that, compared to a general DSP chip, is super approachable, that it acts just kind of like an analog part, and all of the different digital things that you need for digital pedals to work is included inside of them. And so a lot of smaller companies use that. Like, I know a lot of Earthquaker stuff uses that same chip. And one thing that's cool about it is that because the primary effect is in the program, you can actually have really similar circuit boards that have completely different effects on them just because of that program. And I've got the development kit for that up and running, and I've got my first kind of tremolo programs kind of together. I'm hoping that by this summer I can get Water finished, and then I have another dirt pedal that I'm working on that I want to get done this year, but it's the idea for that is a lot more vague, but it's that the things that I have now don't have a ton of EQing options, that for the most part I do that internally, that I'll find like the range that I want them to be at. But for this next dirt pedal that I'm thinking of, I want there to be not a ton of controls for your tone shaping, but like a separate bass and a separate treble. And I've been really interested in like diode blending things. So like you can have, normally if you can like have a switch that you change between different clipping diodes, but you can kind of put those on a knob so you kind of blend between different ones. And that's another idea I really have been getting into. But yeah, I guess to recap, what I'm aiming for this year is to release Air, Water, another dirt pedal, and then with the development I've been putting into Water, it's getting me more set up to start doing more other digital stuff. That the Air that I have here, that's mostly an analog delay. Technically, the memory chip in it is digital, but it doesn't have a lot of the capabilities of a regular digital delay. And I think I want to start working on more like weird reverbs and delays and stuff. That's the kind of stuff that really got me interested in pedals to begin with, and then I got really into fuzz there for a while, but I kind of want to get back into that like weird time-based stuff. And to me it seems like the real future of that stuff is with digital effects, just because it's your imagination is more of the limit rather than like what components you can track down. And I don't know, that's something I've always thought was kind of cool about programming, but I've never, unless it was about music stuff, I couldn't really maintain interest in a programming project. So I'm excited about that digital stuff that I'm working on too.
Awesome. We ready for the speed round portion of the interview?
Yeah.
All right. Jumping right into it then. So, amps, Vox or Fender?
Vox.
All right. Tone bender or fuzz face?
I think fuzz face.
Semi-hollow or full hollow?
Ooh, full hollow.
Nice.
I like that feedback personally.
There you go. Master volume, yes or no?
Yes.
All right. Strat or Telly?
Ooh. I like both, but if I have to pick one, I think I go with Strat.
Good
I like
choice.
I like all different pickups, and I kind of need the bar, you know?
Yeah.
There you go. Les Paul or an ES335?
It's a Les Paul. My first guitar was not an actual Les Paul, but a Squire Les Paul, and I have a kind of nostalgia for that kind of body.
Yeah.
There you go. AC30 or a JTM 45?
AC30.
Boots or sneakers?
Boots. You're ready for anything in boots.
There you go. Bigsby, yes or no?
Definitely yes. I love a Bigsby.
There you go. Big Muff, triangle or ram's head?
Brand's head.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yep.
I like tea, but I'm out of coffee today, and I'm on tea, and I feel off.
And last but not least, a Fender Tweed Deluxe or a Deluxe Reverb?
Think Tweed.
Yeah.
There you go. And that concludes the speed round.
All right.
All
Lance,
right.
thank you so much, man. This was great. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was fun talking with you guys.
Yeah, man. You're doing the right thing. Keep it going. Cool to see, small companies like you that are able to take it from a hobby into a full-time gig. That's awesome.
Thanks. I'm happy about it, and I want to see more small companies like this too. I feel like other people that I've met, that are doing small companies, it seems, I don't know, there's something that's a little bit more personal about it than when you're getting something from a really big company, and I really like that, I get something from Native Audio that's basically that guy's idea, and as opposed to Boss, it's a huge team of people, which is still putting out really awesome stuff, but it's cool to kind of connect with people individually like that, even when it's not me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The best. All right, well, that's it, guys.